The phone rang at 2:47 a.m., jolting me awake with that particular dread that only comes from late-night calls. But it wasn't bad news. It was worse. It was my wife Kara's voice, slurred and giggling, clearly drunk and clearly not alone. "Brent, baby, I'm having such a good time on my business trip. Miles says the conference is amazing. We're learning so much about... What are we learning about, Miles?" A man's voice in the background, cocky and smooth. "Tell him we're learning about expanding horizons, sweetheart." More giggling. Then the line went silent. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I sat there in our empty bedroom, staring at the phone like it might explain itself. Kara was supposed to be in Portland at a marketing seminar for her company, Coastal Communications. She'd left 3 days ago with her overnight bag and her best professional smile, kissing me goodbye and promising to call every night. This was the first call I'd received, but that wasn't what made me freeze. What did that was the name Miles? Because I knew exactly who Miles Denton was, her company's slick real estate consultant who'd been sniffing around our marriage like a dog in heat for the past 6 months. The same Miles who always found excuses to text Kara about urgent business matters at 9 p.m. on weekends. I grabbed my laptop and did something I'd never done before. I called Coastal Communications' emergency line. The night security guard was helpful enough, probably bored out of his mind. "Marketing seminar in Portland? Sir, we don't have anyone at a conference this week, and between you and me, we laid off most of our marketing department 3 months ago. Budget cuts, you know?" My world tilted sideways. "Can you tell me if Kara Alden still works there?" A pause. Some typing. "No, sir. No employee by that name in our system. Hasn't been for... Looks like she was terminated in February. That's about 4 months ago." 4 months. 4 months of Kara getting up every morning, putting on her work clothes, kissing me goodbye, and driving off to... where? 4 months of paychecks that apparently weren't coming from Coastal Communications. 4 months of lies served up with my morning coffee. I hung up and walked to our kitchen, my bare feet cold against the tile. Everything looked the same, Kara's coffee mug in the sink, her vitamins lined up on the counter, the grocery list stuck to the fridge in her neat handwriting, but it all felt like props in a play I didn't know I was starring in. That's when I noticed Kara's iPad on the counter, the one she usually took everywhere. She'd been in such a hurry to leave for her business trip that she'd forgotten it. Or maybe she'd left it on purpose, knowing I'd never think to look. Wrong move, sweetheart. I knew her password, our wedding anniversary, because Kara wasn't particularly creative with security. The Messages app opened like a door to hell. "Miles, can't wait to have you all to myself this weekend. That husband of yours has no idea what he's losing. Kara. Brent's so clueless it's almost sad. He actually believed the Portland story. I swear he'd believe anything if you said it with enough confidence. Miles. 3 more months and we'll have everything transferred. Then you can file for divorce and we'll disappear with his nest egg. Guy works 60 hours a week, and for what? So we can live the life he's too boring to enjoy. Kara. He's been putting money away for years, thinking we're saving for our future. Joke's on him, we are saving for our future, just not his." I read through months of messages, each one a knife twist. They'd been planning this for over a year. The fake job, the secret bank accounts, the elaborate deception. They'd even joked about my pathetic attempts to be romantic, mocking the anniversary dinner I'd planned, the weekend getaway I'd surprised her with. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how stupid they thought I was. "Miles. Does he suspect anything?" Kara. "Brent, please. The man thinks changing a light bulb makes him handy. He couldn't figure out a conspiracy if it came with instructions and a diagram." That's where they were wrong. I'd spent 15 years as a warehouse supervisor at Hartwell Logistics, managing inventory, tracking shipments, and solving problems that would make a Rubik's Cube look simple. I'd caught thieves, exposed fraud, and streamlined operations that saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. I wasn't some bumbling fool who couldn't tie his own shoes. I was just a man who trusted his wife. Big mistake. But not the biggest one in this story. I made coffee and spent the next 3 hours reading every message, every email, every document on that iPad. By dawn, I had a complete picture of their plan. They'd been slowly draining our joint savings account, money I'd been putting away for 20 years, thinking we were building a life together. Kara had been transferring small amounts to an account I didn't know existed, always just under the threshold that would trigger bank alerts. She'd forged my signature on credit applications, opened cards in my name, and was planning to max them out before disappearing. Miles had been feeding her inside information about property values and investment opportunities, helping her move our money into assets I couldn't touch. They thought they were so clever. They thought I was so stupid. Time to show them how wrong they were on both counts. I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years, and drove straight to First National Bank. My buddy Sean from high school worked there now as a loan officer, and he owed me a favor from when I'd helped him move last summer. "Brent, good to see you, man. What brings you here so early?" "I need to freeze all my accounts, Sean. Every single one. Joint accounts, savings, checking, everything." His smile faded. "Whoa, that's pretty serious. Mind if I ask why?" I showed him some of the messages on Kara's iPad. Sean's face went through several expressions: surprise, anger, then professional concern. "Jesus, Brent, I'm sorry, man. This is bad, but I can help you. Let me make some calls." Within 2 hours, every account was locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Any attempt to access them would trigger alerts directly to my phone. I also discovered that Kara had indeed been forging my signature. The bank had copies of credit applications I'd never seen, much less signed. "This is fraud, Brent. Serious fraud. You could press charges." "Maybe later, Sean. Right now I want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes." I spent the afternoon at the library, using their computers to research Miles Denton. The guy was everything I'd expected. Expensive suits, flashy car, social media full of photos from expensive restaurants and weekend trips. But he was also leveraged to the eyeballs with a mortgage on his riverfront condo that was bigger than my annual salary. Miles wasn't just stealing my wife, he needed my money to maintain his lifestyle. That evening, I did something that would have horrified the old me. I drove to the Riverside Motel, a rundown place on the outskirts of town where people went when they didn't want to be seen. Kara's car was there, parked next to Miles's silver BMW like they weren't even trying to hide. Room 237. I could see the light through the thin curtains, could hear voices and laughter. My wife and her lover celebrating their brilliant plan while I sat in my truck like some pathetic private investigator. But I wasn't pathetic anymore. I was methodical. I took photos, license plates, room number, timestamps. Then I settled in to wait. At 11:30 p.m., they emerged, Kara hanging on Miles's arm like a teenager. They were both drunk, stumbling and giggling as they made their way to their cars. "Tomorrow we'll transfer the rest," Miles was saying. "By Friday we'll have everything we need to disappear." "I almost feel bad," Kara slurred. "He's going to be so confused when he finds out." "Don't feel bad, baby. Feel free. We're doing him a favor, showing him what the real world looks like." They drove off in separate cars, probably thinking they were being careful. I followed Kara home, watching from down the street as she stumbled into our house, turned on the lights, and probably went straight to bed in the guest room where she'd been sleeping for the past month. "Stress from work," she'd said. "I just need some space to figure things out." Now I knew what she'd been figuring out. I sat in my truck until dawn, making plans. Not revenge plans, strategic plans. Because if there's one thing I'd learned in 15 years of warehouse management, it's that the best way to catch a thief is to let them think they're getting away with it right up until the moment you spring the trap. Miles and Kara thought they were playing chess while I played checkers. Time to show them I'd been playing chess all along. I was just better at it. The next morning, Kara came down to breakfast looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her business trip hangover was spectacular. Red eyes, shaky hands, that particular green tinge that comes from mixing wine and bad decisions. "How was Portland?" I asked, sipping my coffee and reading the newspaper like nothing had changed. "Oh, boring conference stuff. Very educational, though." "Learn anything interesting?" She paused, probably trying to remember what fake conference she was supposed to have attended. "Just marketing strategies, new approaches to customer engagement." "Sounds fascinating. Miles Denton was there, wasn't he?" I watched her face carefully. Most people can't control their micro-expressions when they're caught off guard, and Kara wasn't most people. She was an amateur playing in the major leagues. Her eyes widened slightly, then she forced a casual tone. "Miles? I think he might have been there. Why?" "Just curious. Thought I heard his voice when you called the other night." "Oh, that. Yeah, we ran into each other at the hotel bar. You know how these industry events are. Everyone ends up in the same places." She was good. I had to give her that. Not great, but good enough to fool someone who wasn't paying attention. Someone who trusted her. Someone stupid. "Well, I'm glad you had fun. I missed you." The guilt that flashed across her face was almost worth the betrayal. Almost. That afternoon, while Kara was out running errands, probably meeting with Miles to plan their next move, I made some calls. First to my lawyer, then to my accountant, then to a few other people who might prove useful in the coming days. But the call that hurt the most was to my best friend Jake Morrison. Jake and I had been tight since college. He'd been my best man, I'd been his. Our wives were friends, our kids played together. If anyone would have my back in this mess, it would be Jake. "Brent, how's it going, man?" "Not great, Jake. I need to talk to you about something serious. Can we meet for a beer?" "Sure thing. Murphy's Tavern at 7? Murphy's was our usual spot, a dive bar with good burgers and cheap beer where we'd been solving the world's problems for 15 years. Jake was already there when I arrived, nursing a Budweiser and scrolling through his phone. "So what's eating you?" he asked as I sat down. I told him everything. The fake job, the messages, the secret bank accounts, the whole elaborate scheme. I showed him some of the evidence on Kara's iPad, watching his expression change from skepticism to shock to something I couldn't quite identify. "Jesus, Brent, that's really messed up. I'm sorry, man." "I'm going to fight this, Jake. I'm going to expose what they're doing and make sure they don't get away with it." That's when Jake's expression shifted to something I definitely could identify. Discomfort. "Look, man, I get that you're angry. I would be too. But maybe you should think about this rationally. I mean, if Kara's not happy..." "Not happy?" "Jake, she's been stealing from me for months. This isn't about happiness. This is about fraud." I know. But marriage is complicated, right? Maybe there's more to the story. Maybe if you two sat down and talked." I stared at him. "Are you seriously suggesting I should work things out with someone who's been robbing me blind?" Jake shifted in his seat, not meeting my eyes. "I'm just saying, sometimes these things aren't as black and white as they seem. Maybe Kara had her reasons." That's when it hit me. The uncomfortable body language, the defensive tone, the reluctance to take my side in something that should have been obvious. "Jake, how long have you known?" "Known what?" "About Kara and Miles. How long have you known?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Jake took a long pull from his beer, still not looking at me. "Answer me, Jake." "Look, it's not my place to get involved in other people's marriages." "That's not what I asked. How long have you known my wife was cheating on me?" He finally met my eyes, and I saw something there that made my stomach drop. Not just guilt. Pity. "A few months. Maybe longer. Sarah saw them together at that new restaurant downtown. She wasn't sure if she should say anything." "So you both knew?" "You both knew, and you let me walk around like an idiot, thinking I had a marriage worth saving." "We didn't want to hurt you, man, and we weren't sure. I mean, maybe it was just a one-time thing." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A one-time thing? Jake, they've been planning this for over a year. They're stealing everything I've worked for, and you knew about it." "I didn't know about the money stuff. I swear, Brent. I just knew about the other thing. And you said nothing." "What was I supposed to say? Hey, Brent, your wife's cheating on you? That's not exactly easy conversation." "It's easier than letting your best friend get robbed by his own wife." Jake's face hardened. "Look, I'm sorry this is happening to you. I really am. But maybe if you'd been paying more attention to your marriage instead of working all the time, none of this would have happened." The words hit me like a physical blow. This was my best friend, the guy who'd stood by my side at my wedding, telling me that my wife's betrayal was somehow my fault. "Are you kidding me right now?" "I'm just saying, Kara's been unhappy for a while. She's talked to Sarah about it. Maybe if you'd made more effort..." "So this is my fault? The cheating, the stealing, the lying, that's all on me?" "That's not what I'm saying. That's exactly what you're saying." I stood up, throwing a 20 on the table. "You know what, Jake? Thanks for clearing things up. Now I know exactly where I stand." "Brent, come on. Don't be like this." "Like what? Like someone who expects his friends to have his back when his world falls apart?" I walked out of Murphy's Tavern knowing I'd lost more than a wife and a marriage. I'd lost the people I thought I could count on when everything went to hell, but I'd gained something too. Clarity. Crystal clear, razor-sharp clarity about who I was dealing with and what I was up against. It wasn't just Kara and Miles anymore. It was everyone who'd known and said nothing. Everyone who'd watched me get played and decided I deserved it. Time to even the odds. I spent the next week playing the perfect, oblivious husband. I went to work, came home, made dinner, watched TV, and pretended everything was normal. Kara seemed relieved by my apparent cluelessness, growing bolder in her deception. She started staying out later, claiming she was networking or taking evening classes. She'd come home smelling like expensive cologne and wine, spinning elaborate stories about her day that would have impressed a fiction writer. Meanwhile, I was building my case like a prosecutor preparing for trial. I'd installed tracking software on our shared computer, completely legal since it was my machine and my internet connection. Every email, every website visit, every document was logged and saved to a secure cloud account they couldn't access. I discovered they'd been using our home computer to plan their escape, hotel reservations in the Bahamas, research on countries without extradition treaties, real estate listings for beach houses and mountain cabins. They were living in a fantasy, spending money they hadn't stolen yet on a life they'd never get to live. But the real breakthrough came when I found their detailed timeline. Miles had created a spreadsheet. The idiot actually made a spreadsheet, outlining exactly when they'd transfer the remaining funds, when Kara would file for divorce, and when they'd disappear together. According to their plan, I had exactly 5 days before they pulled the trigger. Time to accelerate my own timeline. On Thursday evening, Kara announced she was going out with her book club. This was a new lie. Kara hadn't read a book since college, but I played along. Have fun, honey. What are you reading? Oh, it's a mystery novel. Very complicated plot. I bet it is. After she left, I drove to the Riverside Motel. Sure enough, both cars were there, same room as before. But this time, I wasn't just watching. I was recording. The motel's walls were thin, and with the right equipment, borrowed from my buddy who did security installations, I could hear every word. What I heard made me freeze and my resolve harden like steel. 5 more days and we're free, Miles was saying. I've got the offshore account set up, the travel documents ready. Your husband will wake up Monday morning with nothing but debt and divorce papers. I almost feel sorry for him, Kara replied, but she was laughing as she said it. He's been so sweet lately, making my favorite dinner, buying me flowers. He has no idea what's coming. Sweet but stupid, the perfect combination for a Mark. 20 years of marriage, and he never suspected a thing. God, I've been so bored. You have no idea what it's like being married to someone so ordinary. Well, you won't have to pretend much longer. By this time next week, we'll be sipping cocktails on a beach while he's trying to figure out how to pay the mortgage. They laughed together, the sound carrying through the thin walls like nails on a chalkboard. My wife and her lover celebrating the destruction of everything I'd built. That's when I heard the most damaging part of their conversation. What about your friends? Miles asked. Won't they wonder what happened? What friends? Jake and Sarah? They already know about us. They think Brent deserves what he gets for being such a workaholic. They won't say anything. So Jake hadn't just known. He'd actively chosen their side. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd thought possible. What about his family? His parents are gone, and he doesn't have any siblings. No one's going to come looking for us. He's completely alone. Wrong again, sweetheart. I drove home and made 3 phone calls. The first was to my lawyer, giving him the green light to proceed with the nuclear option. The second was to my accountant, authorizing him to implement the financial strategy we'd discussed. The third call was to someone Kara and Miles had forgotten about, my cousin Danny, who worked for the State Attorney General's office investigating financial crimes. Danny, it's Brent. I need a favor, and it's a big one. Friday morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. Kara was unusually cheerful at breakfast, humming while she made coffee and actually kissing my cheek before sitting down. You seem happy, I observed. Just feeling good about things. Like maybe we're turning a corner, you know? Definitely turning a corner. She had no idea how right she was. At exactly 10 a.m., while Kara was out shopping, meeting with Miles to finalize their plans, my lawyer filed papers with the county clerk. By 10:30, Kara was officially served with divorce papers that included a detailed accounting of her fraudulent activities. At 11 a.m., Danny's team at the Attorney General's office executed search warrants for Miles's office and condo, seizing computers, financial records, and anything else related to their scheme. By noon, both Kara and Miles were sitting in interview rooms downtown, trying to explain why they had been systematically defrauding me for the better part of a year. I spent the day at work, handling normal warehouse business while my phone buzzed with updates from my legal team. It felt surreal, loading trucks and managing inventory while my entire life was being reconstructed 20 miles away. At 6 p.m., I got the call I'd been waiting for. Brent, it's Danny. We got them, both of them. The evidence you provided, combined with what we found in the searches, makes this an open and shut case. They're looking at serious prison time. What about my money? Every penny accounted for and frozen. They won't be able to touch it, and you'll get it all back. Plus damages. And Miles? Miles Denton is finished. His real estate license is suspended, his assets are frozen, and his employer fired him about an hour ago. Turns out this isn't the first time he's been involved in something like this. When I got home that evening, the house was empty. Kara's car wasn't in the driveway, and half her clothes were gone from our bedroom. She'd run, just like I'd expected her to, but she hadn't run far enough. My phone rang at 8 p.m. It was Kara, and she was crying. "Brent, please, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding, Kara. I know exactly what you did. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I'm at my sister's house. Can you come over? We can work this out." The time for working things out was about a year ago, before you started stealing from me." "I never stole anything. That money was ours." "Money you moved to secret accounts? Money you were planning to take to the Bahamas? That money?" Silence. Then, How do you know about that?" "I know everything, Kara. The fake job, the forged signatures, the offshore accounts. I know about the timeline, the travel plans, the whole scheme. I've known for weeks." "You've known? But you didn't say anything." "I was gathering evidence, making sure I had everything I needed to destroy you both." Her crying intensified. "Brent, please. I made a mistake. I was confused. I was scared. Miles told me you didn't love me anymore, that you were planning to leave me with nothing." "So you decided to leave me with nothing instead?" "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me. You hurt me in ways I didn't think were possible. And you enjoyed it." "That's not true." "I heard you, Kara, at the motel, laughing about how stupid I was, how easy it was to fool me, celebrating the destruction of our marriage like it was some kind of victory." Another long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "Fine. You want to play hardball? My lawyer says I can get half of everything in the divorce. 20 years of marriage means something." "Your lawyer is wrong. Check the prenup." "What prenup? We never signed a prenup." "Check again. Page 47 of our marriage license application. The document you signed without reading because you were so excited about the wedding." I could hear her frantically shuffling papers in the background, then a sharp intake of breath. This can't be legal." "It's perfectly legal. Any adultery or financial fraud voids your claim to marital assets. You get nothing, Kara. Nothing except whatever prison sentence Danny's team decides to recommend." "You bastard. You planned this whole thing." "No, I planned for this possibility. There's a difference. I hoped I'd never need it, but I wasn't stupid enough to leave myself vulnerable." 20 years of marriage, and you were planning to screw me over from day one?" 20 years of marriage, and you were actually screwing me over at the end. I'd say we're even, except you're the one going to prison." The line went silent. Saturday morning brought a knock at my door. I opened it to find Jake standing on my porch, looking uncomfortable and angry in equal measure. "We need to talk," he said. "Do we? Because last I checked, you thought I deserved what happened to me." "Look, I heard about yesterday. The arrests, the charges. Maybe I was wrong about some things." "Maybe?" He pushed past me into the house, which was a mistake. I wasn't in the mood for Jake's particular brand of friendship anymore. "Sarah's freaking out," he said. "She thinks she might get in trouble for not reporting what she knew. She might. Accessory after the fact is a real thing, Jake. Come on, man. She didn't do anything wrong. Neither did I. We didn't know how to handle the situation." "You handled it by choosing their side over mine." "That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. When I needed my friends most, you decided I was the problem." Jake's face reddened. "Maybe because you are the problem. You think this is all some big conspiracy against you, but maybe people just got tired of your attitude." "My attitude?" "Yeah, your attitude. Always acting like you're smarter than everyone else, like you've got everything figured out. Maybe Kara left because she was sick of being married to someone who thinks he's better than her." The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I looked at Jake, really looked at him, and saw something I'd missed before. This wasn't just about Kara and Miles. This was about 20 years of resentment that had been building under the surface of our friendship. "You're jealous," I said quietly. "What?" "You're jealous. You've been jealous for years, and when you had a chance to watch me fall, you took it. That's ridiculous." "Is it?" "Let's see. I got promoted to supervisor while you're still working the same job you had in college. I own my house while you're still renting. I've been married to the same woman for 20 years while you're on wife number 3. Jake's face went from red to purple. "You arrogant snake." "And when you found out my perfect marriage was falling apart, you were happy about it. You wanted to see me brought down to your level." "Shut up." "That's why you didn't warn me. That's why you took their side. You wanted me to lose everything so you could feel better about your own failures." Jake took a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. I said, "Shut up." Or what? You'll hit me? Go ahead, Jake. Add assault to the list of stupid decisions you've made this week. For a moment, I thought he might actually do it. The rage in his eyes was real, and 20 years of friendship was crumbling between us like a house made of cards. But then his shoulders sagged, and the fight went out of him.
You know what, Brent? You're right. I was happy when I found out about Kara. I was happy because for once in your life, you weren't the guy who had everything figured out. You were just another poor bastard getting screwed over by his wife.
At least you're honest about it now. But you know what the really funny part is? Even when you're getting destroyed, you still come out on top. Even when your wife robs you blind and runs off with another man, you still win. You still get to be the smart one, the one who saw it coming, the one who had a plan. He walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. I hope it was worth it, man. I hope destroying everyone around you was worth being right. After he left, I sat in my empty house and wondered if he was right. Had I become so focused on winning that I'd lost sight of what really mattered? Then I remembered Kara's laughter at the motel, the sound of her and Miles celebrating my destruction, and the doubt faded. Some battles are worth fighting, even if you have to fight them alone. The trial took place 6 months later. By then, the local media had picked up the story, turning it into a cautionary tale about marriage, trust, and betrayal in small-town America. I became something of a local celebrity, the warehouse supervisor who'd outsmarted a sophisticated fraud scheme. Kara and Miles both pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Miles got 7 years in federal prison. Kara got 5. The judge was particularly harsh in his sentencing remarks, noting that their scheme had been calculated, deliberate, and utterly without remorse. I got my money back, every penny, plus interest and damages. Miles's assets were liquidated to pay restitution, including his fancy condo and expensive car. Kara's family, who'd initially supported her, turned their backs when the full extent of her deception became public. The divorce was finalized without fanfare. 20 years of marriage dissolved in a stack of legal papers and a judge's signature. But the most satisfying moment came during the victim impact statement portion of the sentencing hearing. I'd prepared remarks about the financial damage, the emotional trauma, the betrayal of trust, standard stuff that the judge had probably heard 1,000 times before. Instead, I looked directly at Kara and Miles, sitting at the defendant's table in their orange jumpsuits, and said something else entirely. Your Honor, the defendants seem to believe that I was an easy target because I trusted my wife and didn't suspect her betrayal. They're right. I didn't suspect, because I believed in the vows we took and the life we'd built together. Kara was crying, but I wasn't done. They also seemed to believe that I was stupid, that I was too dull and ordinary to see what was happening under my own roof. They're wrong about that. I saw everything. I documented everything. And I made sure that their scheme would fail, not because I got lucky, but because I was smarter, more patient, and more thorough than they ever imagined possible. Miles was staring at the table, but I could see his jaw clenched with anger. The defendants thought they were playing chess while I played checkers. What they didn't realize is that I was playing chess too. I was just better at it than they were. Every move they made, I was 3 moves ahead. Every plan they hatched, I had already anticipated and countered. I paused, letting the words sink in. They wanted to leave me with nothing but debt and humiliation. Instead, they're the ones with nothing. They wanted to disappear to a tropical paradise and live off my life's work. Instead, they're going to federal prison. They thought they were so clever, so sophisticated, so much smarter than the ordinary working man they were robbing. I smiled then, probably the first genuine smile I'd had in months. Turns out they were wrong about everything. The judge sentenced them immediately after my statement. As they were led away in handcuffs, Kara turned back to look at me one last time. Her eyes were filled with something I'd never seen there before. Respect. Too little, too late. 2 years later, I sold the house and moved to a smaller place across town. Too many memories in the old neighborhood. Too many reminders of a life that had been built on lies. I kept working at the warehouse, got another promotion, and started dating again. Carefully, but with an open mind. Trust doesn't come easy anymore, but it's not impossible either. Jake and Sarah moved away about a year after the trial. I heard through mutual acquaintances that their marriage didn't survive the fallout from their role in the whole mess. Apparently, Sarah couldn't forgive Jake for choosing sides, and Jake couldn't forgive her for putting him in that position in the first place. Some friendships don't survive the truth about what they really were. I still think about that night sometimes. The night I heard Kara's drunken phone call and realized my marriage was over. The night everything broke apart, but also the night I started putting the pieces back together in a way that actually made sense. People in town still point me out sometimes. The guy who caught his cheating wife and sent her to prison. Some think I'm a hero. Others think I'm a heartless bastard who could have handled things differently. They're probably both right. But here's what I know for sure. When someone you love decides to destroy you, you have two choices. You can let them do it, or you can destroy them first. I chose option 2, and I'd make the same choice again. Because in the end, the only person you can really count on is yourself. Everyone else is just playing a role in your story, and you better make damn sure you're writing the ending. Miles gets out of prison in 3 years. Kara gets out in 2. I'll be waiting. Not for revenge, I already got that. Not for reconciliation, that ship sailed long ago. I'll be waiting to see what they've learned about underestimating people, about the price of betrayal, and about the difference between being ordinary and being underestimated. Because the biggest mistake they made wasn't stealing my money or breaking my heart. Their biggest mistake was thinking I was someone they could beat. They thought wrong.